Hi everyone, I'm Saleha. Thank you for joining me today. On Chai Chat and Community, we talk about things that matter deeply to our families. And today, we are talking about something that often hides in plain sight: type 2 diabetes in our children. In our homes, food is love. We show care through extra helpings of food or by pressing that one extra chocolate into tiny hands. But alongside our rich food culture, we are seeing something that is really worrying. More and more young children, yes, children, are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Why is this happening? What can we do in our kitchens and homes to keep our children healthy without losing the joy and the tradition of our meals? To help us understand, I am joined by Maya, a dietitian who specializes in childhood type 2 diabetes. She works with family like ours every day, and she's here to share tips, bust myths, and remind us that change doesn't mean giving up our culture. It means protecting it for the next generation. Thank you so much for joining me, Maya.
My pleasure, Saliha. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. It's my pleasure to be joined with you on your wonderful chat. I think it's a beautiful community that you've developed, and I admire your passion to improve everyone's lives with little bits of information on your channel.
Thank you so much. So before I start bombarding you with questions, do you want to tell us something about yourself?
Sure. So I grew up in Singapore. So Singapore is really home for me. I've moved to Melbourne probably about 5 years ago now. It's a wonderful place to be. Lots of multicultural, I suppose, scene here. Food. I love food. I'm a foodie personally as well, so no restrictions there. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Melbourne, and I really enjoy working as a dietitian as well. I've been practicing for about 4 years now, supporting children as well as adults around chronic disease and just spreading awareness to try and manage this soon before a diagnosis, or at least soon before it escalates further. And I must say, in the recent months, there's been a lot more awareness, people being a bit more proactive around their health, thinking about it. I think I've had a lot of teenagers come to me for an appointment as well.
Wow,
So it's
really?
lovely to
Wow.
see. Yeah. And they're often the one who's driving the conversation, and their parents are more supporting them.
Yep,
Um, yeah, it's really nice to see a change.
this is fantastic. Yeah. And I would think, teenagers in today's day, I suppose we were too, we are so conscious of ourselves. And then again, I mean, when children are babies and toddlers and even 10 years old, you really don't know much about yourself. And then suddenly there's an awakening as to
Yes.
how to look good, how to be fit. Although I've been reading that children as young as 8 and 9 are now are now jogging with their parents, which is again great. So
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
to understand type 2 diabetes, can you first explain what type 2 diabetes in children is and why are we seeing it more often now? Or was it always there and we just didn't know and we weren't aware of it?
There's definitely been an increase in diagnoses with younger children lately. That hasn't been the case before. So basically, type 2 diabetes is when your pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin compared to what you need in your diet, from your diet at least. With type 1 diabetes, that's a bit different. It's when your pancreas absolutely produces no insulin and you're completely reliant on external dosages of insulin. So, in that regard, type 2 diabetes is certainly something that can be managed with lifestyle. Medication is certainly the last resort, but there's a lot that we can be doing from a food and lifestyle perspective now to minimize the risk of diabetes, or at least the extent that it progresses to.
Thank you. Are we seeing more kids being at higher risks and being diagnosed? And if so, why?
Yeah, interestingly, I must say that there has been lots of emerging research um, in the sense that the uterine environment plays a big role in shaping the genetic risk or the metabolism of a baby.
Do
So
you
the
want
risk.
to explain that in simple terms for our listeners?
Sure. So what I really mean is when the baby is in the mom's womb, that's when it starts. So when a mother
Yeah.
is at a risk of gestational diabetes, or if they
Which I
are,
suppose most mothers are, isn't it? I hear so
yes,
many mothers talking about gestational diabetes. Yeah.
yeah, so that's where the risk really starts. So
Mm.
you are at a higher risk. I mean, a lot of moms these days are diagnosed with diabetes. So hence
Yep.
the risk that of that being passed on in terms of the baby's metabolism or the way they store sugars and fats really starts from the environment in the uterus. So well
Yeah.
before the baby is born. So that can alter the baby's genes, affecting fat metabolism in the long term, into childhood, into adulthood. It actually influences how the baby's pancreas responds to the mother's high blood sugar levels. So the baby's nutrients are very much dependent on what the mom eats. And
Yeah.
so I think where this really starts is mothers being a bit more vigilant around
Yes. And
what they
being more healthy. Yes.
yes, yeah, and not wait until the 26th week
Yeah.
check to then make a decision, but really start as early as they can, being more vigilant around what they're putting into their bodies. If the cravings are getting to an extent where, they don't see themselves eating what they typically do, and if seek medical support or seek gynecological support as early as possible.
Yeah. Uh, I think also, I'm guessing when the mothers first go to their GPs, I think
Mm-hmm.
GPs are also telling them to get more active. I know, and it's a tough time for many. Pregnancy is not all that easy. I remember when I had my children years and years and years ago. I didn't have morning sickness, but I had afternoon sickness. And oh my God, it was like everything was just so difficult. You didn't feel like doing anything. Plus, I used to work in hotels, so there was abundance of food,
Yeah.
and again, lifestyle plays a big role. Eating right plays a big role. Exercising, I think, plays a big role. So, as much as we are talking about children today, it is also dependent on the mother, isn't it?
It
As to,
certainly
yeah,
is, yeah, because we can certainly speak about, the relationship with food and how the parents behave towards food as a couple. But
yeah,
what really directly impacts the baby's blood sugar levels is what the mother's putting into their mouth.
yeah.
So a lot of awareness needed in that space. The mother's BMI, so basically their body
Yep.
weight, also influences. So there is some research around this as well. So mothers with a higher BMI are also more likely to develop gestational diabetes. And that increases a child's risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 4 to 8%. Sorry, not 4 to
Wow.
8%, but 4 to 8 times higher risk.
Yep. Wow. That's huge. That's
Certainly huge.
huge.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So that and this can present as early as the age of 8 or 10. Some things that parents can really look out for is it's about like not whether the child is heavy weight or normal weight, but rather the amount of fat that really sits around their abdomen. So that's what we call visceral fat. The fat that sits around the tummy is often the most how do I say the
The evil,
the more dangerous.
the
Yeah.
dangerous one. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's an indicator, and it's not often about that 5 laddus that you might have at a party one day. Diabetes often develops because of consistently high blood sugar levels. So it's a pattern that might have been present for 1 or 2 years, before it really presents as a problem. Yeah.
It's scary, isn't it?
It is,
It
yeah.
is,
So there are a lot of
yeah.
reasons for why this is really showing up more these days. The processed food that we have around, it really fuels this. The lack of time we have while juggling, jobs and work. It's very hard for um,
Yes,
to have a living without two adults working in a household, at least here
absolutely.
in Melbourne. So then you're also struggling for time, meal planning. Kids are also exposed to so many snacks on advertisements. You walk into Coles and all
That's
these
right.
bluey snacks and everything is within their hands reach. And marketing and advertising, they're really doing a good job, but with the wrong foods.
Yeah, I hear you. So,
Yeah.
our diets are very rich in carbs and in sweets. So, how do we adapt that to the normal lifestyle? Like you said, both parents working, bringing up toddlers or young children is not easy. Then there is, music lessons and there is sports. So parents are run off their feet at any point of time. And weekends especially, you are on the go, go, go from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. So how do we adapt to the new lifestyle? What can we do, and how can we, make simple food, swap everyday meals for healthier ones?
Yeah, I think, like you say, our diet is suddenly very carb heavy. Something that we can do is think about adding more vegetables to our plate, fruits and vegetables. I know for a lot of young families, getting kids to have vegetables is a
Oh
struggle
yeah,
on its own.
yeah,
So if they like fruit, there's no harm in having more fruit and less
yeah,
vegetable. What we're really focusing on here is the fiber content.
yeah.
And I know there's been a lot of conversations around fruits and them being high in sugar. But then the sugars in fruits are processed very differently by the body compared to sugars in muffins and cookies and cakes. So we don't need to be concerned about the sugars in fruits, but incorporating at least about a third of a plate of vegetables and fruit on a child's plate will also reduce their appetite to overeat rice. So that's probably one change that the families
We
can
can
look at.
do. Yeah,
Yeah. The other thing that I often see in among families and their meals is potato should always be treated as a carbohydrate. They're not a vegetable. So having, like, for example, aloo parathas. So that's a carb and a carb. So there's no real vegetable or fiber or protein
yeah,
in that meal. So that's something to point out. So if you start treating potatoes as a carbohydrate, if you do have potatoes as part of a meal, that's okay, but just reduce the amount of rice that you also
yeah.
put on your plate. Yeah.
Thank you. I've started doing that because I come from a culture where rice and potato are staple diets. You
Yeah.
cannot do without it. And I married a man who never understood why I had to put potato with every single vegetable that I make. But now I've changed him and he's changed me. So yes, but I understand. Yeah, potatoes, rice, and thankfully, when we were young, my mother kept telling me, have less rice and have more veggies. And I come from a very tropical place in India, and there fish was a staple diet. You know,
Okay.
so fish and potato and rice. That is what you ate. So,
Right.
so yeah, you
Very
don't get
nice.
that in Melbourne, but yeah, I,
Yeah.
I try and make that on Sundays or even on a Saturday if I'm feeling kind towards the family. But yes. Um, So let's talk activities. We talked about how mother has to be active. Also, the children have to be active. So, what small changes in activity levels can make a difference?
I suppose definitely not targeting a child single
Yeah,
and telling them that you need to do this or you need to do it, but rather phrasing it as a family activity. Let's all go to the
yep,
beach today, or let's all go, to the park and play cricket together, or having a trampoline in your backyard, or having like a little basketball hoop
Yeah.
to do something as a family. That way, physical activity does not need to come in the form of sports. So I know a lot of kids don't enjoy sports.
Yeah.
What we really want to do is reduce that screen time and get them on their
Yeah.
feet to do anything, whether that's going to Coles to do groceries together, which might actually work in your benefit, because when you actually bring kids shopping to the farmers market or to Coles and Woolies, they actually get exposed to a lot of food. They learn about food. They can help you, put some mandarins in a bag and take it for you. They learn a lot with their senses, not just when they eat a food at the dinner
Yeah.
table.
Touch and texture makes a lot of difference, isn't it?
100%, yeah. And often when you tell them to touch intentionally, they may not do
Yeah.
it. But if you expose
Yep.
them to an environment and when you're not watching, that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely. I agree. That's how I taught my girls. I don't know whether they have been successful, but yes. Um, and
Yeah.
also, I see a lot of families, and especially in Melbourne in summers, and spring is hopefully around the corner, winters for
Mm.
another month because it's been severe, and today is a terrible day. I
Yes.
see a lot of family cycling, and
Oh, good.
that's so lovely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Like getting them little
beautiful.
cycles. Yeah, when you do it as a family, they also learn from the behavior that the parents try to portray.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about practical guidance.
Sure.
Like we said, parents run off their feet, both of them working. If you and we are all back in the office. It's no more working from home. It's and travel time, whether you take public transport or whether you're driving, it takes a lot of our time. We know
Mm.
that. So, can you walk us through a day's meal plan that works for us with um, with our children with type 2 diabetes and even otherwise, just a healthy meal plan, let's say for a day, and
Mhm.
then we can then suit it to ourselves, isn't it? Each family has different needs.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was going to touch on that as well, to say that a meal plan, I can certainly provide some examples, but it would definitely be, it needs to be tailored to, someone's weight, their physical
Of
activity
course.
level, make sure it suits their needs and satisfies their nutrition requirements. So, in terms of convenient options, at least to suit a family of this day and age with a busy lifestyle, for breakfast, we could be looking at something like wheat bix. So, wheat bix is an excellent multi-grain option. We definitely want to be incorporating more grains into our diet, mostly more whole grains, I should say.
Yep.
So, something like a whole grain bread or a multi-grain bread rather than white bread. So
Yep.
the seeds and the grains in these carbs are actually going to slow down that sugar release in your body,
Yep.
which makes a huge difference when you're talking about type 2 diabetes and the risk behind it. So perhaps
So
milk.
I just wanted to ask you here because, again, from the place that I come from, when we
Mhm.
were kids, we obviously had well, before going to school, we used to have rice, dal, eggs, and potato, boiled
Oh,
rice, yeah, which I can't imagine anyone doing. Whereas my husband used to have a paratha.
okay.
But when my girls grew up, when we moved here, and we didn't have any help, so what I used to do is give them a glass of milk and a toast.
Okay.
Is that a good meal? Because to be honest, none of my girls liked wheat bix. They tried for a while, and then they were like, "So how can we make wheat bix something like wheat bix
Mhm.
exciting? So that we can get kids to eat."
Yeah, so that's an important point, because for some kids, it could be the texture. When you pour too much milk into wheat bix, it becomes a mushy mess. And
Yeah.
that might be what turn kids away. For some others, they just don't like the taste. They find that wheat bix is tasteless. So when
Yep.
your child refuses food, it's important to understand why they are
Why?
refusing food. Is it the color of it? Is it the texture? If it's the texture, a lot of the kids don't mind having dry wheat bix, and then they would have a milk separately. That
Oh,
works as
really? Okay.
yeah. If they like the crunch of it, then you could put a little bit of milk over it, but not soak it in milk. If it's the taste, I think you might have seen these Wheat Bix bites that are those little squares with fruit in
Okay.
it.
Yeah. All
So,
right. Wheat Bix
so
squares. All right. Yeah.
yeah, Wheat Bix bites, they are a good option because they've got little dried fruit in it. It adds a bit more flavor.
Yep.
So that's been successful with some kids as well. They've got apricot berries and different flavors. So that's one option. But like you say, toast and milk is not a bad idea either. So as long as that toast is multigrain
Yep.
with seeds in it, and you'd have to put something on it. So
Obviously.
something that is beneficial or at least nourishing would be something like peanut butter
Yep.
instead of plain butter or jam, which don't really provide anything nutritionally. You could add peanut butter to toast, and you could have, or cheese is a good option as well. So a protein with bread, which is a carb, and then you've got some milk on the side, and that's
Yep.
a suitable breakfast.
And that I would think, even, and this is what I want to ask you next. How can parents involve their kids in meal planning so that
Yeah,
the kids don't feel restricted? So, something like what you just said, bread and cheese, something that the kids can do themselves, isn't it? Pour a glass of milk, put it in the microwave, make a
yeah,
toast.
exactly.
But
Yeah, and what we're really encouraging is also that um, the sense of touch, doing something themselves with their parents. So maybe making some protein balls together, or making pancake together, or even rolling rotis. So getting kids to do something as part of your meal prep um, gives them that exposure to touch. Because if a
yeah,
child wouldn't touch a food, there's no way they're going to put it into their mouth, because the fingers are less sensitive than their mouth. So the first step to getting a child to accept a food is to either, getting them to serve dinner at the table. So it could be with their hands, it could be with a fork or spoon, and also getting them to be part of the meal prepping prior to it, because at least that way they can see what's gone into the food. And so when you make that meal and you put it on the dinner table, it's not as anxiety inducing for them, because they would have seen what's gone into it. They would have
yeah.
seen you make it. They would have been part of it. They're more likely to actually come forward and try it.
Thank you. A lot of it. I know when my daughter was 9, younger daughter, I used to get she used to make our lunches, all of
Okay.
us, for my husband and me, when we were going to lunch for work, school for her and her sister. And I think that's it. I mean, yes, I won't say we did not have processed food. We did, because
Mhm.
convenience, but now I think you have a lot more options.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. How can kids have healthy lunches that they can carry? Because, a slice of anything
Hmm.
um, is easier than to carry. And as kids grow older, they don't want to carry pasta and noodles to school because there's a huge peer pressure.
Yeah, exactly. So kids always want to, have something else that their friends do. So,
Yes.
and that's beyond our control. So I will definitely put that disclaimer there, because they're more likely to be role modeled by someone else their age, and it's often their friends that they want to
Yep.
copy. So, in terms of foods that are easy or at least healthy for a child to bring along, would be maybe something like, bread and, like we've spoken, some cheese or peanut butter, if there's a nut policy at school. Otherwise, something like a leftover, like chana masala, for example, chickpea based dishes. So
Yep.
what I'm really focusing on here is the protein, which is what
Of
really
course.
helps the child grow.
Yeah.
And also,
And and
when we
and
focus on
many are
health,
non-veg. Many are vegetarians or
yeah,
vegans, and we've got to be mindful that not everybody will have non-vegetarian food.
yes, yeah. So that's an option. Otherwise, some of these muesli bars that aren't filled with sugar. So the health star rating on a packaging is probably something that you can pay attention to help you
Yeah.
compare two different um, muesli bars, for example.
Yep.
So, like an LCM bar that we've got at Coles and Woolies, it's basically rice bubbles and sugars
Yep.
that's
Yep.
bound together, that might have a health star rating of about 2, and that's predominantly carbs. Whereas something like a Carmen's muesli bar with either dried fruits or nuts might have a higher rating. So choosing something like that is still okay for a child. Because it's got oats, it's a whole grain, it's not processed.
And I actually make muesli bars at home with oats and dry fruits and peanut butter and some honey.
Yeah.
And I was told to add a banana to, to bind it. And that's perfect. Yeah. And it's healthy, it's homemade, it fills you up. It's got, I put in, and I've been doing it for a while now, for many years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, if parents do have the time to make their own protein balls, muesli bars, it's certainly going to be much better because you have control over how much sugar you're adding, what you're blending, and you can really cater it to your child's food preferences.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. So we are nearly at the end. Perfect timing. So we're going to talk. I'm very positive. So I always look forward to something, that we can do better in the future. So if there's one myth that you would like to bust, what would it be?
Probably that type 2 diabetes is not always linked to a child or an adult who is overweight. So often at times, insulin resistance, which basically means your body is not receptive to the insulin that it's producing, is not tied to someone's body weight. It often goes unnoticed, which is why there's a delay in diagnosis. So always think about your child's risk, especially if there is a genetic component to it. If parents have got diabetes, the child is definitely at a higher risk. So to think about what your child's risk might be, your food patterns at home, if it's carb heavy, making that shift. If a child is more sedentary, then putting in that emphasis on movement. If you've got a pet at home, maybe go for a walk with your child instead of walking the dog on your own. These are ways that we can actually foster healthy behaviors from a very young age.
Thank you, Mara. We are at the end of our chat. And so to all the parents and grandparents listening to our podcast today, this isn't about blame or guilt. It's about love. It's about taking small steps, maybe switching up one meal, adding a family walk after dinner, like Maya just said, or gently saying no to that second sweet, because these little changes can protect our children's health for years to come. And I'm sure Maya will agree with me that a healthy child is at the heart of a healthy family.
100%. Yes. And it's always in our best interest to protect a child's health.
Absolutely. And so to all our listeners, if today's episode sparked some ideas or questions, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message or share it with anyone you know who will benefit. Until next time, take care of yourself and look after each other. Thank you so much, Maya, for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in.
Bye.
Bye-bye.